Right, 5 June 2024, and today I'm going to be giving you yet another update of about 20 stories that are taking place across Zimbabwe. And I do this every day, every morning at 5 a.m., so that all the people around Zimbabwe can understand what is going on. So let's quickly start with the headlines. And today we're looking at a story that is coming out of the Zimbabwe National Army. So the Zimbabwe National Army has been ordered to reinstate 5 soldiers who were fired in 2017. And these soldiers obviously have not been going to work for all this time. And the reason why they were fired was for stealing food rations. And after they were accused of stealing food rations, they were then taken to a court martial. They were acquitted by the court martial. So the court martial found that they were not guilty. However, the commanders then took them through another process and fired them. And the court, so there's something called the Board of Suitability, recommended that these soldiers should be fired. So in 2017, they were taken through the court martial, they were acquitted. In 2018, they were taken through a Board of Suitability, and then they were fired after that process. They then went to the High Court, and the High Court reinstated them. However, the commanders appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has now ruled that there was an error in the Board of Suitability, and the 5 soldiers, Collin Chiba, Charles Mhuri, Bothwell Gorekore, Blessing Murambaroro, and Gibson Madzinga should be reinstated. So we've got this as our leading story. The process did not work in the National Army. So what it means is that if you're a soldier, it doesn't mean the commanders have got the final word. If the commanders do something wrong, you can take them to court, especially if they fire you. So what this means is that here the Zimbabwe National Army is going to have to pay these guys for the past 7 years. I don't think they'll be able to put them back in the army, but in terms of their rights, the soldiers have done a great job here. So the soldiers obviously have another way. If there is a problem in the army, it doesn't mean because the commanders have fired you, then you should just go away. There's been a lot of abuses in the Zimbabwe National Army. There's a guy who is in Bedbridge, who I talked about a few months ago, who also had issues. So if you're in the Zimbabwe National Army, obviously there's a way. If something happens to you in the army and the commanders are wrong, you can go to court and you can win. You can win. The Board of Suitability, the court martial, all these things are not final. So I'm happy to see that something good has come out of this. 5 Zimbabwean soldiers have now been reinstated after 7 years when they were fired through a wrong procedure by the Board of Suitability. So they've taken the case all the way to the Supreme Court and they've won. Then I want to quickly go through other stories here. Let's go through some pictures, and I want to show you what's happening. Mnangagwa is having a hard time in South Korea. He thought he was going to go there and get a massive reception, but it has not happened. Mnangagwa had the chance to speak for a very short space of time, and no deals have been signed, as I said yesterday. So we want to see what happens when he goes to Russia. He's going to go to Russia probably today or tomorrow, where there's another event over there. And then the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has signed a pledge of integrity with senior officials. So these are the senior officials at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. They've signed some sort of pledge not to do corruption, and it was overseen by Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission chairman Michael Reza here. And these are the people who are signing the pledge here. What I want to say about the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is a total mess. The corruption in the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is the worst corruption that you can ever find. And the bank is totally the center of all the problems that is happening in Zimbabwe. I've been saying this for so long that the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is where the problem is. And especially at the level of the deputy governors. They need to change the deputy governors at the levels of the board. The board of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is a massive problem. And John Mshayavanu is just over there, but he doesn't have control. The actual criminal activities taking place in the Zimbabwean market is being overseen by people at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, and they should actually be fired, especially the people that are in surveillance, people that deal with the disbursement of cash, people who do investigations. We need new people at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. So signing this pledge to me is a waste of time. But let them do everything that they're doing. It won't work because the actual problem in Zimbabwe is the total system is rotten. It's very corrupt. There's a corrupt system around Zimbabwe. And if you want to look at what's happening with the ZIG, CHIZIG, that is the worst kind of mismanagement that you can ever see. Someone releases a currency, but that currency is not available. And when it's available, it's fake. So they are releasing the electronic ZIG, which is fake, and not releasing the actual physical ZIG, because the people who are benefiting from the ZIG, they are able to print that fake ZIG to create those fake numbers, what we call banning. They are banning the ZIG. And right now, they've actually released a few ZIG through Homelink, and no one has got money in terms of change. As we speak, there is no change around the whole country. Let's see what happens with the Homelink, but I have a feeling that this whole thing is going to fail. Nothing has ever worked, especially if you put in place policies that you cannot find in any other country. So where in the whole world do you know where the central bank does not release all the currency denominations? So that is odd and strange. And the only thing that happens in Zimbabwe, and then you think that things are going to work. It won't work. It's crazy. And they know very well that what they're doing is short term, and it won't work. Then another story that is also crazy is Mnangagwa Kereke here. Mnangagwa Kereke is a ZANU-PF politician and former MP. Also, he worked at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa Kereke was jailed, and then he went to jail. He was released on bail after he appealed. And then he lost the case. And he was supposed to go back to jail to serve another 20 months. However, after he was found guilty and was told to go back to jail, the police are refusing to arrest him. So he's walking freely after he was found guilty. That is Mnangagwa Kereke, a Zimbabwean politician. After the courts and the National Prosecuting Authority have found him guilty, and he's supposed to walk back to jail or to be arrested and taken back to jail, the police in Zimbabwe are refusing to arrest Mnangagwa Kereke. So I want to take this and I want to take you back to what we've been saying over the past weeks. The Zimbabwean police are too politicized. They don't know their job. Uyu Commissioner Aripo Matanga is the worst police commissioner ever. He's a political puppet, and he does not do his job that he's supposed to do. Right now, we have been chasing the case of Pastor Tafmane Masai here, and I want to keep going back to this case to show you how corrupt the police in Zimbabwe are. Pastor Tafmane Masai was killed. We know the people that killed him work for Scott Sakupanya, who is the MP for Mavuku. He was killed while campaigning for an opposition candidate, and the evidence was presented to Matanga and to the police. They did not arrest the people that were clearly responsible for the murder, who worked for Scott Sakupanya. They did not call them to any interviews, and they did not update the public on what's happening. Right now, we've got a similar case here of Mnangagwa Kereke, who is supposed to be arrested because he's not gone back to jail. So this guy is walking scot-free. He's not gone back to jail after he was told by the court that he's guilty. And this means you now have a case where the police can decide to arrest you or not, even if you're breaking the law, which is crazy. Yeah, so someone's trying to call me. Please don't call. I'm not going to answer right now. Then let's go to other cases. And I want to take you through other stories here that are happening around Zimbabwe. Let's start with another interesting story. Sorry, I just had a minor disturbance over here. Zimbabwe launches capital markets. So this is a capital markets association that has been launched yesterday. Mnangagwa was in Nyanga, as I said to you. and they've launched here a capital markets association. And you can see Andy Hodges there on the left. Did you guys know that Andy Hodges used to work for the Reserve Bank? So Andy Hodges, during the days of Gideon Gono, was part of the team that formed the Zimbabwe Allied Banking Group. So this guy is not just a journalist, but he's worked very widely in the banking sector itself. And I don't know how he ended up at the Zim Papers running ZTN. I think ZTN is underperforming very, very badly. So in terms of media, if I was at the Zim Papers, what I would do is I would collapse ZTN into one thing. Those ones are just a waste of resources because no one watches that thing. And people like Andy Hodges will probably do better back at the Reserve Bank or someone else, not in the media house, but he's probably over there to monitor the guys. Then I want to look at other stories here in terms of what has happened with the roads. So I told you that the roads are not finishing. Mnangagwa's roads are not completing because he's not paying the contractors. Yesterday, they opened a very short stretch of road. You can see how short this stretch of road is. It's like a roundabout near Westgate over there. They opened a very short stretch of road over there. And these things don't make sense. The quality of workmanship here is so low, and it's almost like it's a construction site. So Mnangagwa is struggling to complete his projects, and it's apparent that by the time SADC starts, he won't have completed the projects. And these things are going to be ISOs way after the conference itself. There's no money. Mnangagwa is not able to mobilize money to do anything. And his projects, he talks a lot about projects. Imagine if he is in South Korea. This is South Korea. Like just the area where Mnangagwa is right now. I mean, if he looks out of his window, that is what he's probably seeing. Zimbabwe is so underdeveloped and things don't work because they just don't have a plan. Mnangagwa and a plan. And Mnangagwa, Arkuraivan, Nenzara. That is the biggest problem. Right now, people are struggling because of Mnangagwa and his policies. And the solution is needed very, very quickly. In terms of the ZIG is obviously a problem. They've been arresting people left, right, and center. So far, 9,000 people have been arrested over the ZIG. So you can see that it won't work. You're fighting against the river. This is what the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is doing, and things won't work. Then I want to go to some entertainment stories, and then we'll go to sport, and then we'll deal with South Africa. So let's look at some entertainment stories. And in entertainment stories, you know Ginimbi. So Ginimbi is this guy here. Ginimbi was a South African, a Zimbabwean socialite, and he was very well known around the world. So Ginimbi, Genius Kadungure, the first guy who gave me 1 million views. So Ginimbi, when he died, he was with a girl called Moana Amuli. And the father of Moana is actually trending today in a newspaper called the H Metro. So Moana Amuli, when she died, she was in the car with Ginimbi. So that was Moana here. She was a model and a socialite, and she died with the Ginimbi. So what has happened is that the father of Moana, who is called Ishmael Amuli, has revealed that before she died, on the day that she died, she had come to his house or to a house in Dombosha, and he had begged her to stop what she was doing with all the films and photos she was putting out, because a ritual had been performed on her in Malawi, and what she was doing was angering the spirits. He said he went on his knees and held her by the feet and started to cry and tell her, please stop what you're doing. But she ignored him and she did not answer me. That's what he said. And he said after that, the next thing he heard was that she had died. So that is her father here, Ishmael Amuli. He is in the H Metro newspaper. You can go and look at that story. And he's also asking the father of Ginimbi to come and pay his condolences, because the Ginimbi family had not come, the Kadungure family has not come to his home ever since she died. So I don't know what to make of that, but I know Mudara Amuli and a drama. But what he just revealed about the Malawi rituals, I don't know what to make of it, but it's in today's Metro newspaper. You can go and look at it over there. And then in terms of sport, we've got young man, Tawanda Chirewa. He is a Wolves player. He's currently in camp in South Africa with the Zimbabwean team, but he's not able to play because he does not have a Zimbabwean passport. So the Zimbabweans are scrambling to get Tawanda Chirewa a passport. He's a very, very good player, and he can make a difference in the Zimbabwean strike force. So let's see what happens. There'll be a lot of game time for Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Warriors, in the next 2 weeks. So I hope that they get him a passport. Then in terms of Linda Masarira, crazy thing has happened. And I actually reluctant to speak about this story because I don't want Linda to phone me and fight me. But there is a trending story of Linda Masarira. And this is quite sad because Linda Masarira and her husband are having issues, and it involves the daughter. So it's mother, daughter, and husband. And Linda Masarira was expected to leave the home after she found her daughter and her husband in bed together. But she has announced that she is going to go back to her husband. So I don't know how that arrangement is going to work, where Linda Masarira, husband and daughter, are in a relationship. So that's very crazy because Linda says her daughter is not apologetic. So I don't know how that is going to work. Let's observe this bizarre situation that is developing. And then I want to go to SADC, and then I go to South Africa. SADC has declared the election in Madagascar free and fair. The report has been issued. So if you want to see the report of SADC on Madagascar election, you can go and check. Things are going very, very well in Madagascar, and they've got a new government now. So I'm very happy with what they've done. So the two elections that they've said are free and fair: South Africa and Madagascar. No issues on those elections, no big issues. Obviously, the issues, but no big issues. Then there's going to be a meeting of women's ministers. So Monica Mchangwa is going to be over there. That is in 2 days' time. She's going to be in Luanda, Angola. So that is SADC. As I said, SADC, the most important body right now. Going into the future, the Southern African region is going to be integrating. And we want to see more and more activities and want to focus on SADC. That is why we're having a massive protest against the SADC and against Mnangagwa when the SADC summit is being held in August, between 17 and 19 August in Zimbabwe. SADC is also in Zimbabwe today. They're going to be commemorating World Environmental Day with Delish Ngwaya, and that is a geopomona, and we're going to be monitoring that very, very closely. As I said, I'll be at SADC myself very, very soon. We're making arrangements for me to go over there and talk to the guys to see what's happening, to inquire about a lot of things. So I'll try to set up some appointments. And you know that I don't go to SADC to demonstrate. I just go there as part of my media work. Then in South Africa, currently the ANC is in closed door meetings. So the ANC leadership has gone into closed door meetings, and this is to do with the selection of the next president of South Africa. They're going to be looking at the various permutations. How does President Ramaphosa stay in office? What happens if they cannot convince the coalition partners? And the coalition partners is EFF, MK, and so the ANC, EFF, and MK, they are most likely going to be the partners in a new coalition government. And the international rating agency, Fitch, has warned South Africa against what we call, let's say what the word that they used here. I want to be correct in the word that they used. They say radical policies. The NC, EFF, and MK have been warned against the radical policies. So there's great fear that South Africa is going to be in the hands of maniacs or people who are going to come up with all sorts of crazy policies. So the international community is watching what the ANC and the EFF and the MK are going to do. It's like you leave your kids alone at home. That is what is happening in South Africa right now in terms of the guys who are going to be in charge. If those three parties go into office, it's going to be amazingly crazy. You will see something that you've never seen in Africa. Reserve Bank nationalization, policies on immigrants. It's crazy what is going to happen in South Africa, and everyone is watching to see if things are going to turn out well in South Africa. Then there is a very interesting case where a woman who worked in the office of President Cyril Ramaphosa. So she's trending, this woman. She's called Dikeledi Moema. So Dikeledi Moema is trending because her son is involved in a theft of bursary funds. And she has also been arrested because money came into her account, her bank accounts, after her son who worked for KPMG stole 16.6 million. He's called Fidelis Moema. And on checking, they found that she has received over 500,000 in a bank account from her son. And obviously, the questions arise, was she still working for the president's office when this happened in 2022? But at 66, I don't think she was still in that office. However, the fact that she was working in the president's office, and it's written that she currently works there on a LinkedIn profile, this has brought the interest of the media who want to know if this is someone who is still working for Ramaphosa, and if Ramaphosa's office is involved. So if you look at the Sowetan newspaper, they're leading with that story, who is Dikeledi Moema, and the theft of bursary funds is quite a massive thing here. So this is the actual headline in the Sowetan newspaper. Latest accused in KPMG fraud case worked for the presidency. So that's Dikeledi Moema over there. This is a developing story, how that money was stolen. She's only being charged with money laundering. So she did not steal the actual money, but this is a massive story that is developing in South Africa. KPMG fraud, 16.6 million of student funds. That is a story that is developing over here in South Africa. So let's look at what is going to be happening. So what is happening next is we're going to be looking at Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa has totally misjudged the situation in South Korea. He went there with a whole bunch of people, hoping that he was going to sign deals. But the South Koreans, that's not what they're doing. They have a meeting for Africa. They do not want to have a one-on-one with Mnangagwa. So Mnangagwa has to serve first and come back to Zimbabwe with some story, but nothing is going to come out of these trips. Mnangagwa is totally in the wrong direction. There is no president in the whole of the Zimbabwean history that has lost such a golden opportunity as Mnangagwa. People used to love Mnangagwa. When he went into office, people loved Mnangagwa. Every Zimbabwean wanted Mnangagwa to do well. But the problem with Mnangagwa is corruption. He surrounds himself with rotten people or crooks. That is the problem with Mnangagwa. And Mnangagwa's office is a den of thieves. When I say a den of thieves, is if you see a criminal activity, and I'm not saying Mnangagwa himself is doing it, he just doesn't know how to deal with the people in his office. So I want to give you an example. And this is going to make you sad. So currently, there is a car dealer in Harare who has been arrested. And this car dealer is going to appear in court today. So this car dealer has got documents of people that don't exist, like fake documents. I'm talking about the person doesn't exist. The only people who can create such documents are in Mnangagwa's office. And that is Lavmo Kudzanai Mafusire. He imported 2 cars. Remember, I told you the people in Mnangagwa's office are involved in smuggling cars, stolen cars from South Africa, registering them, and then using them in Zimbabwe, using number plates from Mnangagwa's office. So Kudzanai Mafusire used 2 people's identities, including passports. And on checking, there is no such people on earth. Those people have never existed. The numbers on the phone numbers on those documents are Lavmo Kudzanai Mafusire's numbers. That is the only way they could link it to him, because on checking you can't find those people, which means there's someone who's got access to printing documents, giving national identities, giving passport, and these things can just be created from thin air, and it's happening. I'm not telling you things that are not happening here. So number one, that's the corruption, allowing his office to be used by crazy people. You saw what happened with Gulandebe last week. Was arrested right in State House with cocaine. How many things can I list for you here? Or that has happened? Criminal activities happening or people being arrested. I've told you about people importing drugs in Zimbabwe. There's a drug pandemic right now. And do we need to say this over and over again? How do you investigate Mnangagwa's office? Because that is where criminal activities are taking place. And someone needs to take charge over there and say, guys, you can't do criminal activities. And if you do criminal activities, you will not be protected. So look at the Scott Sakwanya situation. How many days did I have to sit here and say Scott Sakwanya cannot walk around with Mnangagwa when he's being accused of a murder of Pastor Tafmane Masai? We had to do this over and over again and bring attention to this matter. And up to this day, the police are scared of investigating Scott because he walks around with Mnangagwa. So all these things that are happening around Mnangagwa, that's why he's failing, because people tend to look at him and say, is he doing this as a president or what? So the questions arise around Mnangagwa, but in terms of actual investment, he does so many things at once and he never finishes anything. So if you look at Mnangagwa's projects, there are massive number of projects. If we say right now, show us the projects in progress. Mbuzi, you've got the stuff happening in Mount Hampden, you've got the dams, you've got all sorts of projects that Mnangagwa started. No coordination, no understanding of where everything is. Does he even know the basics of project management or setting up a project office? I don't understand what it is doing. The mess at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe with the ZIG, we told you that the economy had collapsed at that time. And when I was telling people, they didn't understand. And now when I tell people that there's fake ZIG, they don't understand, because what is happening now is you are taking away the foundation from a building. And when it collapses, it will just one day, like the whole thing will just fall on itself. That's what's happening under Mnangagwa. And do you even want us to talk about putting family members into the business, trying to put his sons everywhere? So these are the issues that are making ED fail to perform. But on a bigger scale, ED is failing to operate. That's Mnangagwa. Is failing to operate with a national vision. What is Mnangagwa's national vision on cohesion in the country, on dialogue, on moving the country from election mode, all the things that we've been talking about. Every time Mnangagwa is in public, he makes jokes, crazy jokes, and people laugh. But in terms of actual progress, you can see that we're almost 1 year after the election, there's nothing happening. And Mnangagwa keeps saying the investors coming, the investors coming. No investor is coming, and he's wasting his time going all over the country. So, in fact, not only the country, I've never seen someone who likes opening things like Mnangagwa. Like you can open a bridge, a road, a classroom, all sorts of crazy stuff. Mnangagwa, I've never seen such a president in my whole life. So he doesn't have that bigger vision to say, what is it that is important? And what is it that can be done by a minister or someone at a lower level? So that is basically where we are with Mnangagwa, and it's crazy. So let's look at the comments here. Morning, Nora, morning, Tina, morning, everybody. And thank you for joining here every day. We're doing very, very well as Gambakwe Media. And I hope that we have more media. I want our brothers in the media to do well. And then Mukomati one saying, where's Chabangu between the senior officials? Where's Chabangu between those senior officials? I think you're asking about Chabangu. Chabangu has received the funds from, what do you call this, Parliament. He has received the funds. And I would like to obviously give a call to Chabangu. Say Chabangu Mkoma, Tipeka Chipanzi. So the secret that I've heard is that Chabangu was actually a vendor. You know, the guys who sell on the street, he was a vendor. He was selling bananas and stuff like that. The guys in Mlawa, they know what I'm talking about. Before he got into this, I'm not saying vending is wrong, but I'm just saying he jumped straight from vending to the top. leader of the opposition. That's a move. And then Chiratizo, why home lake only? Where are the other banks? I don't know why. Obviously, remember I told you this fake ZIG. If they give the banks, no one wants to release the actual ZIG. Do you guys know what I'm saying here? No one wants to release the actual ZIG because the actual ZIG is not fake. Yeah, and I see good someone has made a donation here. So that is Thomas. Thank you very much for what you've done. And guys, as I say, we get support from a lot of people, and I'd like to thank everyone who's supporting here. We are also going to be back in the evening to talk about the SADC protests. I'm going to be holding this process until the guys are formed. So for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be holding and taking care of this process to make sure that there's formation, because I'm the one who's known by everyone. So my brothers, they all know each other and they want to fight. So I want to look at Mkoma Thomas. He's saying, Gambakwe, how are you? Have you heard about the carbon credit due with UAE? It's 20% ahead. Thank you for great work. So guys, I don't know about the carbon credit due with the UAE. Please go and check out the carbon credit due, which Mr. Mkoma Thomas, big guy, is talking about. I want to obviously look at it. I know there was something happening in Wange, but I don't know what is happening right now. So I'll check it. And then, so I think it's halfway, 5:30. So let Gambakwe go and work out. I'm going to go and work out. We've got severe weather today. So let me tell you about severe weather. 7 people have died in the KZN because of storms and flooding. So there's a place called Utongati. That is where 7 people have died. And there's massive severe weather. Many companies have told people not to come to work in KZN. Obviously, you can't drive in the storm, no matter how important your job is. And in Eastern Cape, there is snowing today. So it's a massive problem right now, severe weather in South Africa and massive rain all over the place for the past 2 days. So I would like to thank you all for joining, but I want to end with a general statement. Do you know that the Zimbabwe has got so much promise? And when I talk of promise, is we've got the right infrastructure, we've got the right geographical location, we've got the right people. Like, you actually have educated people everywhere you go. Zimbabweans are doing a great job, very competent people. The problem that we have is in leadership, and leadership, they need to be pushed. So Mnangagwa needs to be pushed. Mnangagwa needs to be pushed to a dialogue. Mnangagwa needs to stop what he's doing, which is to hold us back. And we want to make sure that we play a part. So play a part in leadership. Do not shy away and wait for one person. Don't wait for Chamisa Achagadzir or Gambakwe Achagadzir. We need a new system. So a new system in Zimbabwe, which is going to make us succeed. What I want us to do is, by the end of the year, we should be able to go back to Zimbabwe, all of us. Like, every Zimbabwean should be able to go home. A weekend, you drive to your home area, to your village, you drive and see your parents. Those are the things we want to do, a normal life. And let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Guys, let's fix our country. Let's bring our leaders to account. And let's support my efforts. Arigitwa na Bishop Nyamakanga. My efforts are to everyone. And Nelson Chamisa, all the efforts that I'm making, we can create a new Zimbabwe which works. And my efforts are to Gambakwe, running the biggest media house in Zimbabwe, together with all my other brothers in the media industry. Let's bring our leaders to account. Do not become a puppet, or do not lie for someone. Let's make sure that this thing works and our country does very, very well. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I'll see you again later in the evening. Please support all the work that we're doing. Support Dr. Clarence, support all the news readers who are on Gambakwe, and a good day to you all.